So did Fxdls Brooklyn sell out? Let's talk about it. What's going on YouTube? Fxdls Brooklyn is back in the building. And we are not on my Fxdls, we are on my FXLR ST. And yeah, so if you're new to the channel, let me just get you caught up really quickly. I've been doing content predominantly on Dynas and FXRs for the better part of a decade at this point, specifically pushing those bikes to do heavy miles, long bike trips, cross country, Canada trips, you name it. Recently, you know, after specifically motovlogging for over 6 years, I got the call from Harley Davidson and they asked me if I'd be interested in them sending me the new Lowrider ST. And if you saw the previous videos, then you know I accepted. And you also know I am very happy with this bike. So yeah, you caught me at a point in the timeline where we got a lot going on. So let's do what we do best on this channel. Let's get on the bike and ride and we'll talk about it. So yeah, when I told Harley Davidson, yes, you know, send the bike over and I'll put a bunch of miles on it, I did wonder what the reception would be on my subscriber base. You know, as someone for the better part of 6 years has been kind of preaching the Dyna and FXR gospel, specifically that you can push those bikes to be capable touring bikes if you have the will to do it. So that being said, I actually did expect when I revealed the fact that I would be accepting and riding this bike for the unforeseen future, I did expect some pushback, you know, I really did. But then when I dropped the video, I was really surprised. I was really surprised by how much love I was getting and how much excitement and enthusiasm I was getting to not just picking up this new opportunity and having the company of Harley Davidson notice what I've been doing, but also people just genuinely curious about this bike like I've always been. And I didn't expect that. I did expect that there was gonna be some acid in the comments section. But it's crazy, man, because the last time I checked it, there was like 150 something comments the last time I checked it, and literally only two of them were negative, you know? One of them was pretty straightforward. The guy just called me a sellout, pretty straightforward. What am I gonna say? I don't think there's anything I'm gonna say at that point if that's where we're gonna start the conversation, if to change your mind on that one. And then the other one was a little bit more detailed, where he was saying that he was really disappointed in me and that I should turn in my Dyna and FXR cards. And that was the predominant comment I actually expected to get on the reveal video, and I didn't. Like I said, you all just really surprised me by how much you supported this decision to take this bike. And again, I was just surprised by I was surprised and I was overwhelmed with appreciation with, again, just the enthusiasm and the support and the questions that were coming from you all. But then I thought about it, you know, over the 6 years, you know, one of the things that has kept me back to motovlogging, you know, I've done this, I've dropped at least one video a week, every week for the last 6 years. And one of the things that has kept me going is you guys, you know, like I've built up a really solid subscriber base, and in terms of motovlogging channels out there, I still consider myself a small fish, but we're talking 10,000 plus, like really solid, passionate, and intelligent riders out there that every time I go and I look into the comment section for any of these videos, I'm always learning something new and I'm always just taking some positivity from it. You know, very rarely am I catching any long-term trolls or any nonsense here and there. You know, the comment sections on my videos have usually been respectful and as much insightful. And I hope that's a product of me carrying myself with that positive mental attitude, as well as just carrying myself with respect on here, you know? So yeah, maybe it's not a surprise that you all were so receptive and you all were so excited for this new opportunity. But back to that one comment. So this particular commenter at least gave me a sentence, you know, so that was something I could work with. And generally, like I said, I've had minimal shade thrown on my videos. I've had minimal trolling, etc., you know? But when I do get somebody saying something really negative or saying something borderline insulting or whatever, my strategy has always been the same since day one. And of course, these are strategies that you learn from practicing jiu-jitsu for a good amount of years at this point, and that's not to be reactive. So your gut reaction when somebody says something insulting is to then come right back at them when something else is insulting, but that rarely will make me feel good afterwards, and that rarely will ignite any sort of productive conversation where anyone is seeing any sort of common ground in the situation. So I let that comment sit for a couple days, and then I came back like I usually do to comments like that, and I just said, wow, that's a pretty interesting point of view that you would say that to me. Say more. Or I said something like, have you ever ridden one of these bikes? And then he went on to say that he had, and then got into talking about how he thought that they should you know, recreate the FXR. And then I heard that and I was like, yo dude, we're actually on the same page, because I've been trying to push that idea forward for years now, of there being a modern recreation of the FXR. And I also put in there, and I was like, but that being said, I also think this particular bike that I'm riding right now is a bike that stands on its own and will go down as a legacy performance Harley Davidson. And again, I responded to this commenter with respect and also just general curiousness, and it actually turned out to be a pretty good conversation. And I capped it off by just being like, wow, it's really refreshing to have an intelligent conversation on the internet. You know, it really is. But that little instance, like that little comment, that's happened many a time, where a lot of my other friends that motovlog are just like, yo, just delete the negative comments, just shut them down, say something, you know, go over the top and say something insulting or whatever. But that's just not how I handle it, you know. And like I said, more often than not, it will lead to a productive conversation where at least we find some sort of common ground at the end of the day, rather than just spitting acid back, and you know, that's not going to make me feel good. So I definitely, you know, I got those two comments, right? But predominantly, like, man, I was just blown away, you know? I was blown away. You know, I got comments like this, I got comments like that, and I got a comment like that, and you guys are great, man, and I'm glad you guys are with me for this new content. But now, answering the question, you know, did I sell out? Because that was a question I was actually asking myself, where I was like, if I take on this bike and if I start riding this bike, am I selling out to my roots and my philosophy of as a rider, which has always been fast and far Dyna FXR miles. This is not a Dyna, this is not an FXR. So I had to do a little bit of soul searching. So what I did, and one of the other benefits of being a long-term motovlogger, is I actually went back to some of my really early videos. The earliest one I'm going to show you is actually from 2017. The quality ain't good, man. The quality ain't good. I was still running like a GoPro Hero 3 or something. You know, the camera's all over the place. I was not a seasoned motovlogger at that point. I'm like yelling into the mic and saying all this jazz, being really over the top. So I wouldn't call it great content, but I specifically brought up a couple different videos just to kind of see where my mindset was as all the events unfolded to lead to what I'm sitting on right now, which is the Lowrider ST. And I looked at that timeline, and I looked at my reception to all the decisions that Harley had made each time, and each time the thing I was saying is consistent with what I'm saying right now, which is I actually see potential in these new bikes. I see a lot of potential. I think Harley has a plan. I think we need to be patient and see what happens. And of course, here we are now with probably one of the best performance Harley Davidsons I've ever ridden after all that. So let me show you the timeline. Let's go to the first clip, right? So here we go, clip number one. It's 2017. It was a couple months after Harley Davidson had made the announcement of killing off the Dyna line. So here's the first one, right?
What we're gonna do right here is go back.
How far you going back?
Way back. As we go a little something like this. Hit it.
Flashback.
Harley Davidson made the announcement for their new lineup of bikes, and to everyone's surprise, there were no Dynas announced. In fact, Harley-Davidson had decided to kill the Dyna line to combine many of the Dynas with the Softail line. So meaning there would be no more Dyna models, they'd all be converted to Softails. Now, as you would expect, the Dyna community, like, just totally lost its shit over this. No! And, it was a pretty major commotion. Anyone who had a Dyna, or liked a Dyna, or whose, like, father's second cousin's roommate had a Dyna, everyone had something to say about it, and for the most part, it was a lot of aggression towards Harley-Davidson. But I wasn't, like, going crazy and, like, you know, bashing Harley-Davidson for making this decision or anything. And the reason why is because it was just kind of, like, too early to know, like, what was gonna happen. And, you know, I kind of kept my mind open in the situation where it's like, all right, here's this company that's been making bikes since like 19 whatever. Am I really gonna like totally lose trust for this decision? I guess I have a little bit more trust in the company, and I was just kind of thinking like, all right, they made this decision, there had to be a reason for it, and there has to be something that they have in store for the Dyna fans, the Dyna Nation. You know, walked around, they had almost the entire new lineup here, so. And you know what, man, I gotta say, they look great in person. And I gotta say, man, I saw them and all I could think about was, I just want to get on and test ride one of these things. The next nice day we have, I'm definitely gonna hit up Paul and see if I could schedule a test ride. I think the one I want to ride most is probably the Fat Bob. They definitely are growing on me. Look at those guys side by side. And yeah, that's really it, man. I hopped on this bike with, I think, 10 miles on it. But it turns out that that bike is just something completely different from the Dyna lineup. But what I can say is that riding that bike was an amazing experience. And I didn't want to put it down. Like, I wanted to like take that thing another 100 miles and just like whip around or take it into the city or do whatever. It's just a completely different riding experience. But the thing that I felt the most while I was on that 2018 Fat Bob was just smoothness, man. It was just so damn smooth in everything that it did. From the suspension, to the braking, to the turning, to the acceleration. It was just all so damn smooth. It felt so good to ride that bike. An FXFB 114 from the house of Harley-Davidson, straight from Milwaukee. Let's check it out. Yeah, man, just gonna hang out in Milwaukee and then slam some miles today and enjoy this 114 Milwaukee 8. I do actually really like this bike. I gotta say, it handles very well. Suspension is very nice for being stock. Obviously, it's a 114, so the thing just gets up and goes. I'm gonna talk about the 2020 Lowrider S. Let's check it out. They really made an intention to stay true to the styling points of the original Lowrider S, and I think that's awesome. It has most of the things that stuck out about the original Lowrider S. But what I will say is it looks like an amazing bike. I would be psyched to have that. If something ever happened to this bike or whatever and I needed a new bike, it would probably be that at this point. It'd probably be the 2020 Lowrider S. And that's kind of what I'm expecting to see, is like in the next year or two, I'm expecting to see a whole bunch of those pop up just like the Fxdls did. I think Harley-Davidson knocked this one out of the park. It's Harley-Davidson acknowledging us Dyna riders. The Fxdls was a major success. It was very popular, and then they kind of just quickly did away with it. So it's cool that they're saying like, hey guys, we recognize that people like this bike, and you know, we're gonna do our best to give you something that's similar or close to it. And I think that's great, man. Wow. Am I excited to talk to you about this one. Is in terms of Harley-Davidson releasing that bike, my perspective and my reaction is almost 100% positive. I think that is just another bike and another idea that they've kind of 100% knocked out of the park. And honestly, for a rider such as myself that runs that particular build, which is 100% a performance touring build, that's kind of been my riding philosophy. It's really cool to see that riding style be validated from Harley-Davidson itself. Good job, Harley-Davidson. Good job. You get Fxdls Brooklyn stamp of approval on this one. I cannot wait to get a test ride in on that bike. You know, I'm just gonna first and foremost say that I feel like with this bike, Harley-Davidson created this bike for me and for my riding style. And first and foremost, after just putting the miles that I just put on it in a couple different environments, I legitimately have very little bad I could say about this off the bat. But yeah, guys, I really don't know what to say. It's not, I kind of wanted to hate this. I kind of wanted to walk away and say, nope, I just want my Dynas and FXRs, but I would be lying to you if I said that this bike did not leave an impression on me.
End of flashback.
So the reason why I'm like showing you all these clips from all these years back is I could understand if I, from the beginning, was just throwing shade on these Softails and saying, no, you know, the Dyna and FXR is always going to be better, you know, don't buy those Softails. But that's never been my MO. You know, I've always seen potential in these bikes, right? And don't get me wrong, like obviously I'm a Dyna and FXR enthusiast. I'm never gonna sell any of my Dynas. Obviously I'm never gonna sell my FXR, right? That doesn't mean that I'm not gonna go and experiment and give other bikes the time of day just because I love my Dynas and FXRs, right? That's like, again, this, I don't know how many people this reference is going to be lost on, but that's like in jiu-jitsu where, hey, I had some success with arm bars and that's it. I'm only going to do arm bars and I'm never going to try anything else, right? Well, very quickly, you're going to find yourself tapped out again and again if you paint yourself into a corner, if you pigeonhole yourself into a situation. But if you live life with an open mind, and if you're able to see the positive and you're able to live with that PMA, you might just find that you might be sitting on a bike that is outperforming what you previously thought was the best. And again, you know, that's kind of where I'm at. I 100% do think that performance-wise, this is the best performance you're going to get in 2022. You know, even out the box, this is going to outperform most Dynas and FXRs, right? And especially if they're stock. And I know, you know, the other monkey in the room, the other thing, another similar comment that I received was somebody saying like, oh, that's it, you know, you're one of those moto vloggers now that's just on the Harley-Davidson payroll, you know, like basically saying that I was now going to be biased in my reviews, specifically on this bike. Let me be clear with you. Harley-Davidson sent me this bike, and the only thing that they asked me to do, was to wear gear, like wear a jacket or, you know, wear riding gear and wear a helmet and treat the bike with respect. That's literally the only thing that the company asked me to do. They didn't ask me to say good things about it. They didn't ask me to even make any videos. They didn't ask me to make any Instagram posts. That's it. They just told me to wear a helmet and wear a jacket and treat it with respect. So I can still say whatever I want. You know, Harley-Davidson is not paying me to do this. You know, I'm making this content right now because I'm genuinely excited about this bike, right? You all know, like I am not a career moto vlogger. You know, I have a career that's that's outside of my riding life that's really important to me. So I have no aspirations to ever make moto vlogging a career. It's more something that I do out of passion and fun and recreation, and that's how it's always been. And that also allows me to be objective, and that also allows me to not be biased. You know, I'm not on anybody's payroll, so what I'm telling you about this bike is legitimately how I feel about it. And again, that's somebody who's putting in, on average, over 10,000 miles a year on multiple Dynas and FXRs. So I have the bike trips behind me, I have the miles behind me to give you a good frame of reference. And like I said, off the bat, I can tell you that this bike is unreal. This bike is unreal, dude. That's kind of my rant. On a personal note, I don't think I've sold out at all in terms of my riding philosophy. I think this bike that I'm on right now is the product of my riding philosophy, of me and riders like Vong Asphalt and plenty of you out there that have done the sport touring thing, that have gone the distance on Dynas and FXRs. And again, Harley Davidson recognized that, and we have the product right now of a modern bike out the box that is built to do that. That will put in the miles on the bike trip and cut through the highway, but will also perform very well in those twisties and allow you to throw it around and do what you gotta do. So I don't think I sold out. I just think I took an opportunity, and I think for me, as someone who's really passionate about riding, and for someone who this is a lifestyle for, and for someone who's been really consistent and has worked really hard and has done this stuff with respect and a positive mental attitude, I think this is just the next step in my journey. And for all you out there who showed love and support and, you know, had some constructive things to say, I appreciate it. For all you out there that just think that I sold out and that's it, you're writing me off, well, I'm really sorry to see you go, but I will say that you should test ride this bike before you do that. And if you ever want to talk about it, you know, let's talk about it over a taco on the road. But as always, whether you're on a Dyna, an FXR, or a lowrider ST, stay safe and stay low. Practice a positive mental attitude. Live with discipline, perseverance, and you might just find that good opportunities come your way. And on that, Fxdls Brooklyn is out.